Oftentimes I'm seeing it's 2 to 3 founders. They haven't raised, they've gotten to, let's say, $1 million in ARR, which is a good milestone. And then they often say, what next?
I would be very congratulatory, first of all, because that's an incredible milestone. And I would just say, keep going. Like this idea that you have to grow versus go. I would say just go.
It's funny. It's like people get so stressed out.
If you can do the 20% or whatever, or 50 or fantastic. But the other thing that's always interesting is that people always pick these round numbers, right? Like I need to do 20%. Like where'd that number come from? To me, it's like stay profitable or get profitable if you're not already profitable. Otherwise, you're gonna be begging people.
I had multiple conversations with colleagues before kind of going down this, and they were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're gonna fail. I was like, I'm still doing it. I've scaled Groove to 5 million ARR with 5 people, bootstrapped. I've been working on not only Groove, but also 2 other companies. The goal is to build a no fluff community where founders can build alongside me as I scale these 2 SaaS companies in real time. You'd have access to my playbooks, contractors, strategies. This is the accelerator, the community, the course that's raw, that's authentic, where you build with us. We build with the same playbook together.
Welcome, everyone, to the 0 to 10 million ARR podcast. I'm your host, Tom Morkes, along with my co-host, Alex Turnbull, the founder and CEO of Groove and Helply. Today, we're joined by Jason Fried, the co-founder and CEO of 37 Signals. Now, our guest today needs no introduction, but for the sake of consistency, I prepared one. So Jason co-founded 37 Signals in 1999. Originally a Chicago-based web design firm, the company pivoted to software in 2003 with their flagship product, Basecamp. By 2005, they dropped client work entirely and focused on their software, creating tools like Campfire and Highrise. In the process, they developed Ruby on Rails, which became a global standard for web development. In 2014, they rebranded as Basecamp, doubling down on their flagship product. But in 2022, they returned to 37 Signals name to expand beyond Basecamp with new products like Hey and Writebook. Today, they remain a fully bootstrapped, remote-first company focused on building simple, effective software. Beyond software, Jason is a prolific thinker and writer and the co-author of several books, including Getting Real, Remote, and one of my personal favorites, the New York Times bestseller Rework. In this episode, we're diving deep into the world of bootstrapping, what it takes to build a profitable, sustainable company without venture capital. For over 2 decades, Jason has been one of the most outspoken advocates for bootstrapping, proving that a business can scale, thrive, and stay independent without outside funding. But bootstrapping isn't just about avoiding VCs, it's about control, optionality, and playing infinite games, operating with a different mindset from the typical high-growth, blitz-scaling approach. Jason, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great intro. Appreciate it.
Of course. And to kick things off, Alex, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason, again. It's an honor to have you on the pod. I've been following you for almost 20 years. Like I said before this, I'm not going to gush over you too much, but you've been an inspiration for me, specifically around bootstrapping. I remember I sold my last VC-backed company almost 13 years ago. And whether or not it was reading your blog posts, whether or not it was DHH's Italian restaurant analogy or the Bootstrap Profitable and Proud series, I remember that series like yesterday. You've always been an inspiration, I think, in the space for other founders when contemplating either bootstrapping or raising VC. So for the founders that are going to be hopefully listening in here and using this as a resource when contemplating raising or bootstrapping, to kick things off, what is your philosophy on bootstrapping? Why do you do it, and why do you believe in it so much?
There's a number of reasons for it. First of all, you can just start. So like you can start a business tomorrow and not feel like you have to wait for someone else to give you something. So there's that. Now, you might need something, but you probably don't need as much as you think. So I just like this idea of getting going, getting started on something, all right? I also think that it teaches the right habits. So if your business succeeds at all beyond the first couple years, you're going to have to figure out a way to make money, obviously, and be profitable. And so the more practice you have, the better off you're going to be. If you raise a bunch of money, or even maybe you could raise a little bit from friends and family if you need something to get going. My parents gave me $5,000 way back in the day to buy my first computer when computers are a little bit more expensive. So like they helped me there. That was all I got, but I needed that. So like you might need something, right? But at that point, you're going to need to get good at making money and to sustain your business. And the more time you practice that, the better off you're going to be. It's like picking up a guitar or whatever instrument you have and trying to get on stage, having never practiced before, and then being asked to perform. You're going to suck. And the same thing is true about making money in a business. Like to say, we're just going to not think about how to make money for 4 or 5 years. And then eventually when the other funding runs out, I'm just going to be able to turn on the money-making spigot or switch. I just don't think that's typically how it works. So I feel like practice is important. I also think it keeps you very honest and forces you to, spend your own money. And you spend your own money differently than you'd spend someone else's money. And I also just think in general, it makes you, good at making it versus good at spending it. And when you raise money, you typically, it's not to sit there and collect interest. It's to be spent on things. And you typically have to go back to the well to get some more. So there's a bunch of these reasons. Keeps the team small, forces you to be simple, and helps you kind of squeeze out all the complexity that you can get when you end up with too many people and almost too many ambitions too early. So granted, I just want to say up front, of course, there are certain businesses where you cannot do this. You want to start a car company? No. But software, information-based businesses like this, I think you can really get pretty damn far on your own for quite a long time, in fact, and hopefully forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I've had a lot of founders, because I've been a big advocate of bootstrapping as well. And I've had a lot of founders that come to me and ask for my advice, which doesn't mean much, first off the bat.
No one's advice means much, to be honest.
Right. But oftentimes I'm seeing this scenario play out where it's 2 to 3 founders. They haven't raised, but they've got a good product. They've got customers. They've gotten to, let's say, $1 million in ARR, which is a good milestone for that company. And then they often say, what next? Should I go out and raise, or should I just continue down the path? Now, if I'm a founder asking you that question, how would you kind of respond to that founder?
First of all, I'd say, amazing. You got $1 million. You're making $1 million a year. Now, of course, hopefully your expenses are less than that. So if you're spending $7 million to make $1 million, but let's assume for a moment that you're break even or making something, or at least paying the salaries of the people who are working for you and yourself and taking something home. I would be very congratulatory, first of all, because that's an incredible milestone. And I would just say, keep going. Like this idea that you have to grow versus go. I would say just go. Whatever you've managed to do is like you've already beaten almost all the odds at that point. It's like, so you're doing something right. Just keep doing that for a while, for longer. And then I would say, if someone's like, well, I want to get to this is something you'll hear, like, I want to get to the next level. Like, where's that? And why do you think someone giving you $3 million is going to get you to the next level? It's going to get you to hire a lot of people. It's going to get you to have to live under other people's expectations. It's going to let you live under other people's schedule. But is it going to take you to the next level? It's just going to be money you're going to be spending on something. So the idea that money is going to take you anywhere, I don't really see it unfold that way for the most part. I would say you're performing well. Clearly, you're finding customers. I'd find more customers. I'd do more of what you've been doing already, and keep going for a while. Especially if it's just been a year, that's amazing. Like maybe 7 or 8 years, and you find yourself sort of plateauing, or you're just interested at that point to do something else or see what you can do with this business. Then you've got a track record. You've got some time under tension in a sense, and you can say, you know what? I've decided that at this point, I know enough about what I want, what we're doing, that I want to do something else with this thing. But I don't think a year in, you have any idea. And I think what ends up happening is people get caught up at that point with thinking they've hit some milestone and they must now hit the next milestone. To me, it's like stay profitable or get profitable if you're not already profitable. Then you can kind of keep going as long as you want. And you buy some more optionality with that. So I don't know. Those are some of the things I would say, but I would always just pose the question, like, why? Mm-hmm. Just why? And a lot of people surprisingly can't answer that. They're just like, well, I thought that's what you're supposed to do, or it sounds like that's what I'm supposed to do next, but they don't really know. They haven't really thought about it. And that's sort of where I would go first.
Yeah, and I often find that they almost feel like if they don't reach the 20% month over month growth at a certain level of MRR, then they're almost failing in a way. And they're like, how do I get to that 20%? Oh, I must inject more cash.
Right.
And then I must hire and I must build out and I must go big. But
let me just walk that back. I think you're right that what you're saying is what I've heard as well.
Yeah.
And I would say if you were on an island and you'd never heard that from anybody else and you weren't paying attention to what other people think you should be doing, like, would that naturally be what you would think? I would think you'd be thrilled. You're like, I got a business here. This is like working. This is amazing. Versus like, I'm not doing well enough because I'm not hitting some number that someone else I heard about on the internet told me about. Like the amount of noise and external expectations people are absorbing and assuming that that's just the way it is because a bunch of random people told me that that's what I should be doing. I find that to be, it's unfortunate that is, I think, where a lot of people are deriving their purpose or strategy or expectations from. I really think if you just closed your ears and let your head down, you'd be thrilled with what you're doing and you'd be enjoying it. If you grew 7% the next year, fantastic. You take some more money home. Your employees have more money to hire someone. These are amazing things. These are like amazing progressions in a business, which is to stay in business year after year after year versus feeling like you must hit some certain targets that someone out there made up for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, like if you can do the 20% or whatever, or 50 or fantastic. But the other thing that's always interesting is that people always pick these round numbers, right? Like I need to do 20%. Like where'd that number come from? Like, and we've fallen prey to this too. I remember there was a time where we wanted to hit some big revenue target. There was like a time in our business, a number of years ago, we're like, we want to hit like 100 million in revenue. And we were all like pumped about it. And we're like, we're going to do this and that to do that. And then like a year after we set that out, we're like, first of all, we didn't hit it at the time. And we're like, you know what? Like, why do we even pick that number? Like, what, where is that coming from? And it's like, I pulled it from some expectation that I thought I should have given where we're at and whatever. It's like the next obvious big target or something versus like, okay, how do we do this year? How are we going to do next year? Let's just like do well next year. Let's keep doing well enough. I think that's really what people should be primarily focused on.
It's funny. Tom and I, we're launching a new product, totally separate
awesome.
to Groove. We're really excited about it. But we've only been at it now for about 8 months, Tom, or so. And we're just getting our first, let's say 100 or so, customers that are coming on in our VIP program. Tom asked me today, how many paid customers do you think are going to come out of this VIP program? I said, Tom, honestly, I have no idea. I'm hoping for 10, let's say 10. Great. I'd love that. The reason being is because all I'm doing right now, all we're doing as a team is building the great product, interfacing with the customer, and it's rinse and repeat. Like, I just have a feeling that if we can just do that with, let's say 10, and I'm going to choose that round number of 10, even on the low end, it's like, that is okay for me. That's okay for me. I don't need 1,000 customers in 3 months. If I get 10 customers in 3 months, it's okay. I know that we're not going after skyrocket growth. It will compound over time. And it's funny. It's like people get so stressed out. And I was stressed out too. Like I've been now at it for 13, 15 years, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I remember early days, it was just like, shit, I got to hit these numbers. I got to try and get to that percent. I got to get more customers. I got to do all this. It turns out I've been with our first company now at it for 13 years, slow, steady growth, 5 million ARR, 50% EBITDA. At 13 years it took, but at the end of the day, it compounded slightly over time. And now here we are. It's a great
business. Like it's a great business.
Yeah. But the VCs will tell you that's a shitty business.
Well,
and
fuck them. I mean, who cares what they say? It's that's a big part of this. Like, why does some super rich person get to tell me that my business isn't XYZ enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that should be for me to decide, not for them to decide. Like, who wants that opinion? Who needs their opinion? Now, some people go, you're not ambitious enough, and maybe so, and I don't really care. Like, I think a big part of this is like getting to know who you are and what you want to do. And if you really like to run a business and you really like to make some money off that business and you want to stay in business, then the aim should be to build a profitable business. And if it's a little bit profitable, and even if it's stagnant in terms of growth, but still profitable, and your margins may vary, but like you still have really healthy margins, like, man, isn't that amazing? Isn't that the dream, to like work for yourself, do your own thing, take home a nice paycheck, be able to support employees that you have some buffer and some padding to explore some things and not worry about every little last dollar all the time. Like, this is a wonderful place to be. And the fact that that's become like almost a sideshow is so unfortunate. But it's also only kind of in our world, I think. Like, if you went down to the local pizza shop or whatever, and they've been in business for 18 years, like, they're not looking to grow. They're just looking to stay in business. They're looking to serve the same number of pizzas they did last year. Maybe their material costs went up a little bit, so they need to sell a few more, or whatever it is. Like, they're not. I mean, some of them might be super ambitious. Like, I want to open 100 other shops in a franchise, whatever. But many of them are just like, I want to have this great restaurant. I want to be open. This is my job. This is my life's work. And we would all applaud that. We'd walk into a pizza shop, and they've been around for 38 years. No one would go, I wonder what their year-over-year growth is. No one cares. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like they're still here, and I can walk in and get their great pizza. Like, everyone's happy, right? That's, I think, ultimately what we should be after. And I think most businesses actually are after that. It's only in some of these sort of tech spheres where there's a lot of money floating around, where the expectations are really high, and where you do, of course, have examples of some businesses that have skyrocketed and they're worth billions and billions and billions. And so people hold those up, of course, as the model. But they're such outliers, they almost don't even exist, really. So I don't know. I think we have the wrong idols, in a sense, in our industry.
Is there a specific type of business or founder that shouldn't bootstrap? Is there ever a time where raising makes more sense to you, Jason?
Yeah, I think first of all, if you really literally have significant capital expenditures, like, you're building a factory, or maybe you're opening a restaurant, for example, and you need a commercial kitchen, and there's like regulations, and like you need some money to do some of those things up front. Totally understand that. And also, like, if you're maybe in robotics, or like, there's obviously some areas where there really are capital expenses up front, of course, then, or you need inventory, of course, like, yes. And that makes sense. And I think there's also software businesses where, like, you've proven over a handful of years that you've got something here and you do want to accelerate it or grow it, and you're very clear about what that might look like and what you need to do. I don't think people have any clue what to do 3 months in. I think maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years in, you may have a pretty good sense now of where you're at, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what customers need, what you want to do, what kind of business you want to build. And at that point, maybe you might take a step function in a different direction, and you need some fuel for that, let's just say. I think that makes sense too. But I just think that you want to like get to know this thing first before you decide like what it needs or doesn't need. And that's kind of my point of view, again, unless it's something like biotech, or there's some stuff, of course, where you may not see any returns for 15 years because you're doing heavy R&D in these different areas. And that's just the cycle of that world with approvals and clinical trials. I mean, different businesses. But like, if you're building an app, like, a consumer app or a business to business thing, or you're just a handful of people building something on the web, like it's almost, except for salaries, it's basically free. Like, servers don't cost much, computers don't cost much. All the social networks are free to get the word out, essentially. Yeah, you can buy advertising if you want, but you don't really have to do that either. Like, it's like such a dream to be able to do so much for so little right now. And I feel like a lot of people are just going to jump right over that into doing things they don't need to do because they're sort of enamored with the big numbers with a lot of zeros after them.
That, and I think sometimes there's a fear that like the other guys will have more money and they can spend more money and they'll spend us into the ground, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that first of all, that can happen anyway. So even if you raise money, someone can outraise you. So if you're always going to come from that point of view that whoever has the most money is going to destroy us, like, you're pretty much always going to lose because there's always someone who's going to probably outraise you or whatever. And there's also, part of it is like if you keep your expenses low and you've got a profitable business, you can outlast all sorts of companies that go just blow a bunch of money and aren't around in 5 years. When the economic, fortunes change and interest rates go up and money is harder to come by and they burn out and flame out, you're still around. So, but certainly there are also industries where, a dominant player could come in and just take everything, certainly. And you have to account for those situations, but you also have to be honest about them. Is that really the business that you're in? So I think that fear-based business building is for me, is not that inspiring. I don't think living with paranoia all the time about what other people are going to be doing and doing against you is actually a good way to function. I think you ought to know your own business and control your own business and control your own customers and not control them, but know what you're doing. Don't worry about what they're doing. Someone else is going to do something all the time differently than you are, and stop looking around and just kind of focus on your own thing. It's so easy just to lose sight of your own thing that you have to do work on. The other thing I would say, by the way, to your other question about raising funds is, at some point, I think you should be taking money off the table because there's a good chance your business is not going to survive long term, a very good chance. And if you keep pouring money back into the business, as many businesses do, that's kind of the thing you hear that you're supposed to do is keep reinvesting and reinvesting. There's a point where there's going to be nothing to pull out and nothing left at all. And all that work that you did, you really didn't sort of get anything for it in a sense, financially at least. So, for us, for example, we sold some of our founder shares to Jeff Bezos a couple of years into our business, or a couple of years after we launched Basecamp. Business had been around for about 7 years at that point, but Basecamp had been around for just 2 or 3. And, that was nice because, he doesn't have a controlling stake in the business. None of that money went into the business. It went into my pocket and David's pocket. So we took a little bit of risk off the table. And we're actually an LLC. So we every year we get distributions that take money out of the business and put it into our own accounts, just like we pay our employees. Mm-hmm. We pay us too that way. And that way, should something go wrong down the road, and at some point inevitably it probably will, or will, whatever, it could, we won't look and go, gosh, we reinvested 20 years worth of stuff and now it's all to zero. So I think that's another way to think about taking money is not taking money into the business, but taking money out of the business is a good strategy at some point.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it is not the norm.
Right.
It's just not the norm. Everyone is just let's reinvest 100% back into the business, grow. And then you're just, again, exponentially creating more and more risk. It's just in my opinion, raising venture, you're just increasing the risks of you succeeding and actually taking home anything at the end of the day with regards to personal wealth.
Yes. You're parlaying everything.
Yes.
And you're just, and look, sometimes it pays off, right? It just like a parlay bet, sometimes it can pay off huge. But chances are it's not going to. And there's also a bunch of dilution. I've been involved now with too many private businesses. I've seen from sort of the sidelines as a minority. I'm not an investor person, but I'll sometimes put money into a business run by friends because I want to support them. And I've lost almost all my investments in those, even though they had really successful businesses. And then just something happens at the end. PE comes in, they take it, they dilute everyone else, they change the preferred shared structure. There's all these things that can happen, and the rug can be pulled out from under you and you have no power and it's gone. And I've seen a number of entrepreneurs who were quite wealthy on paper. And in the moment, you're like, this is killer. They're doing great. 2 years later, they leave with nothing. And it's not unusual. And so the point about taking money out of a business is everyone wants to take money out of the business. Some people want to wait till the end because they think the pile is going to be enormous. I want to take money out as I go because the pile might still be enormous at the end. Maybe we sell the business and we get at whatever multiple it is, and then we get that. But along the way, I've been taking money out too in case the big thing doesn't happen, which it probably will not. Yeah. In our case, maybe it will. We've been around for a while. We've got a good, but if you're new, there's a good chance it's not going to happen. It's just the way it is, the way it plays out. So yeah, I would just be careful about deferring money you're taking out because every time you do it, you're piling more risk in. And so I would think about it that way. Do you want to keep to your point, Alex, do you want to keep putting more money at risk every year? or do you want to put some aside? I think it's just a really important question to start asking. Now, part of the problem is how the business, like if you're an S corp, or it's a little bit hard, could be harder to do that. Like with LLCs, the distributions have to be made essentially because you pay tax at the personal level. So you want to take the money out. So it depends on the structure and how it's all set up and everything. But this is why I just always advocate keeping things as simple as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can.
Now, when do you think an entrepreneur should start thinking like that? What's the threshold? For me, I think I've always kind of looked at my business as almost as an annuity in a way, where I've pulled from that annuity when I needed to, whether or not I wanted to create experiences for my family, whether or not I wanted to maybe buy a house or whatever that might be. Like I've always had that mentality, so no one had to sell me on that. But when does a founder start to think about, hey, when should I start thinking about my personal kind of wealth and my potential kind of just piggy bank for my family in a way?
Yeah.
When does that happen?
I would say as early as possible, but not putting your business at risk. So you got to have some cushion, some buffer, whatever. But it's a good habit, I think, to get into, which is to pull some money out and say, this business made this money and it's my business and I'm going to take some of it out, even a little bit, because it actually feels good to do that too. And that's a good feeling you want to begin to culture, I think, which is like, part of the reason I'm doing this is for some degree of financial independence, hopefully. And I don't necessarily, maybe if you're pulling out $10,000 a year, that's not financial independence, but it's like, this is what this thing can provide and can do. And I think it's good to do that. But again, I would be careful. You don't want to deplete it in the early days, especially if it's not that much, just for the sake of pulling everything out. But I think it's a good habit to get into because this is how habits are formed. It's the same reason the first question, which is like, why do I think bootstrapping is good, is because you have to get good at making money. So you have more practice doing that. So I think if you defer taking money out from your business for quite a long time, the tendency is going to be to continue to do what you have always done. Like today's weather, the best predictor of today's weather is probably yesterday's weather for the most part. Today's probably going to be like yesterday for most of the time. And so if you're just always I'll leave it in, I'll reinvest, or you'll probably keep doing that, and you'll probably keep doing that a little bit too long. And then it'll be like a mad grab if things start to slide, or you'll then feel guilty about doing it because you haven't been doing it. And I think then it just becomes harder. So I would just start to get used to this, even if it's not much, but just get used to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As a founder,
look, another way to think about it one more time is it just came to me is like your product builds a bit. You make a product or a service. Your company makes a product or a service. Another product or service that it makes is like income for you outside of just a salary, let's say. So you can look at this excess, this profit as a product of the business, and you are the consumer, a sole consumer of that, perhaps, is another way to think about this. You want to use the product the company is building. And one of those products is profit, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that. Now, as a founder that's kind of maybe struggling to grow, could be stagnant, maybe it's very low growth. What do you say to that founder to still encourage them on the long game? Like what would encourage them to say, hey, you know what? Jason said this and I'm still going here. I'm not going to think that I'm just dead. What is that?
Well, this is just my take on it, which is that growth is not something I really look at. I look at margin. So if you're stagnant, but your margins are 50%, maybe you can get them to 60% and not grow. Like you can play with these other things perhaps, but a business that's generating a 50% margin and not growing, but it can be a steady business for a decade or more, insanely great business. So I wouldn't get down on myself on being flat. What I would look at though, if even more importantly is to me the margin again, like if you're growing but the margin's thinning, that's actually more of a warning sign to me than flat growth and a nice cushy margin. So I don't look at growth so much as I look at margin.
It's funny. You reminded me of I think a quote from David, your partner, where he said, you can grow a variety of ways, one of which is looking at your costs.
Yeah.
Right. Let's look at your costs. I mean, let's look at your server costs. Let's look at your web cloud app costs. Let's use that as a lever for growth and not as an expense. And it's funny if you flip it like that, you start to think like, oh shit, yeah, like that's $10,000 worth of savings, but it's almost as if I just gained 10,000 in MRR a month. So
it could be huge.
Yeah, it could be huge.
Costs are sort of the unsung hero that people don't look at their costs enough. You know, they look at their revenues and their expense. You can, and this isn't about being super stingy because you don't want to do that either. But certainly there are cost savings that you should be after, and just kind of keep this efficiency mindset in place, because you can very quickly spiral your costs out of control, and you can also not pay attention to them and just assume this is how it is, and you can blow a ton of money that way. That's hard to earn. Like for example, if you can save that 10,000 a month or whatever, like you're like, how that would be, for 100 customers I'd have to find. How hard is it to find 100 customers? It could be quite hard to find compared to like cutting those expenses, going with some other service, cutting out an entire service, whatever it might be. It's probably quite a bit easier actually than finding more customers. So at some point though, of course, like if you're losing customers and you're just trying to cut costs, that's it's a leaky bucket. So you got to keep an eye on that. But I think once you get into like orbit and you stay in a steady orbit, and that orbit, it generates a certain margin that you're comfortable with, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's an incredibly good thing, actually. And I think growth is generally overrated. You need the escape velocity, like to get to that certain level, but then you can hold there in perpetuity. That's great.
In time.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think enough founders realize, that if you can do it, but don't expect the rocket ship. Don't expect that this is going to take you a decade. Expect that this is going to take you more than a decade. And if so, who cares? Right. I think that there's I'm only this passionate about it now because I lived it. And I've seen colleagues go the other route, and I've been kind of that person on the outside in a way, where as a single non-technical founder, just grinding, being scrappy, trying to just fucking make it. And it took 13 years really, where I'm now fairly comfortable. I'm still not comfortable because I don't think you're ever really comfortable if you're trying to do something better every single day. But I think it's too often the case where they don't put that scenario in place. So it's really cool to hear.
100% agree. I think sticking with something is hard for people these days too. And part of it too is this sort of serial entrepreneur mentality thing. It's almost like what's your next business going to be? What's your next, like, what about the one you're doing right now? How about that one? My next one is the one I'm doing right now. I don't know. Anyway, everyone's got a different thing. And I also want to make sure I don't want to be preachy here or anything like that. Like, people should figure out what works for them. And that's part of what I'm trying to get at ultimately, is like, what works for you may not be the narrative that you hear out there that you think works for you. Like, what really works for you is what's worth looking at and looking for. But if you like being in business, if you like the act of creating, working with other people, sort of determining your own destiny to some degree, you've got to get profitable at some point. That's the only thing that's going to keep you around. Otherwise, you're going to be begging people to stay in business. And that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, when oftentimes when founders ask kind of about my story and they say, "Hey, what should I do?" I simply just say, think rationally.
Yeah.
Just think rationally. Put yourself in all different scenarios, and if you want to go big, great. But just know that risk will be higher, and that's your choice. Yeah. If you want to decrease risk and maybe go that route, then go that route. It's going to take you a little bit more time, but the risk goes down. So it's all about, I think, thinking rationally, which I've honestly Learned through your learnings and David's learnings, not in a preachy way, but just in almost like a rational thinking with.
And leave some room to be an idiot and be irrational too. Like, have some fun. This thing should be fun too. Business needs to be fun. Ultimately, it should be more fun than not. There's going to be times that are not fun, for sure. There's going to be thin time, all the things, right? But on balance, this should be about actually enjoying 10, 15 years of your life doing this thing that you do every day. It's got to be.
100%. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And it's also like a lot of minutia. Like that's the other thing is like the hard part is actually staying in business. And this is the thing that I think people miss a lot is like people who are building something new think the hard part is like the making of the thing. It's ultimately, all things considered, the easy part. You can make anything, put a shingle out, like start a business tomorrow. Like now you got to maintain this thing. You got to improve this thing. You got to market this thing. You got to deal with the public. You got to collect money. All this sort of monotonous side of business is actually most of it. So you better enjoy some of it because a lot of it is not on the surface going to be enjoyable. It's just going to be something you need to do. So the other things need to certainly be really fun to I think ultimately keep you going, keep you interested.
Yeah, I love that, and I've read that too, Jason, from you. I almost think that the fun aspect of entrepreneurship is depleted in a way by the pressure of whether or not it's yourself putting that fake pressure on yourself, or it's outside venture giving you that pressure, or whatever it is. But I just think like I've lost some fun in my career throughout my career and 20 years, whatever it is. And now I'm 43 years old, and I'm at a point where all I want to do is have fun. All I want to do is have fun in my business, generate a profit, serve our customers, and do what's right, and provide for my family. Literally, that's it. That is it.
That's the dream, really.
Yeah,
that's really what it is, and it's nice because it's grounded in like. If you reverse that, like you need to provide for your family and, and then like you want to take care of your customers, and all these things are going to serve all these other things, but it also needs to be enjoyable, I think, to sustain it. And it's not you almost never hear anyone talking about like business should be fun. It's always so damn serious and like targets and all. It's like, what about just, where's the fun in it? Shouldn't it be? And people are like, well, you can have fun outside of work. I mean, yeah, you could, and you should in life probably too. But like, why can't those 8 hours a day, or at least 5 of them, be like hours you really enjoy spending, versus always being this, even if it's a struggle, because it absolutely can be and should be early on probably. You can still enjoy that struggle versus like hating it.
Good example is with a few new product launches that we're having. I'm having the most fun in my career right now over the last 9 to 10, 12 months, whatever it is. I had multiple conversations with colleagues before kind of going down this multi-product approach venture, which I was very passionate about. And they were like, you're crazy. What are you doing? Don't even think about that. You're going to fail. I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm still doing it. And I'm going to have some fun doing it. And right now it's proving so. Another thing I think that's important that you might agree on is like, who cares what other people are telling you? Like, what does their advice matter? Like, unless they are you in like talking to the customers, doing the customer development, developing the product, dealing with the nuances every single day, what does their advice matter? It doesn't. And that's what I've kind of proven too.
Yeah. And I mean, mine doesn't either. No one's advice really matters that much because these are all just opinions and thoughts and whatever. If I did exactly what I'm telling myself to do again from scratch, I don't know if I would have any success again. Like it's a product of timing and luck and the people you're with at the moment. And there's a million other variables here. So the idea that if you just do this, this is going to be that way. I don't know. It doesn't ring true for me either. And it's good to pay attention to some degree, but I think if on balance, if you had to pay more attention or less attention to the outside world, I'd pay a lot less attention. I don't think more attention is going to help you. I really don't. I think there's too many people telling you what to do. Too much uncertainty being flooded in your mind and in your feeds. I mean, especially right now, it's like, I would be so intimidated to start a business right now. Everyone's like, AI is going to come and destroy everything, and every industry is going to be upended. It's like, by the way, maybe that's true. I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's just like, it doesn't feel like a fertile place to actually be when everyone's talking about how everything's going to be destroyed. Now, some people are saying that it's going to be a beautiful thing because we're going to make all this new stuff, but there's this undercurrent of like, everything you're doing is wrong. It's outdated. It's going to be replaced. Like, that just doesn't, I don't know. That doesn't feel like a really healthy diet to be listening to all the time, in my opinion. Yeah.
I love it. Well, Jason, this has been fantastic.
All right.
It's so good. I really appreciate it. And to be respectful of your time, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jason, for being on the 0 to 10 million ARR podcast. And for those who are listening, if you enjoyed this, share it, write a review, give it to other founders. Let them know about this conversation we had about bootstrapping versus VC. And to learn more about Jason and 37 Signals, visit 37signals.com or basecamp.com or hey.com. There's a bunch of places to find Jason. Just search Jason Fried online and you'll find him everywhere. So Jason, thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure.
Hope it was a useful conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.